Welcome to the Narrate podcast, where we aim to tell God's story with our lives. We'll be continuing to post the Sunday message each week, but we want to dive a little deeper and offer some content to supplement your life with God, and that's where our Beyond Sunday series comes in. Join Adam and Narrate staff as they provide thoughtful discussions, ideas, and interviews that go beyond the message you'll hear on Sunday.
So I'm sitting here with Paul Phillips, who we started having a conversation about baptism last year, about this time of year, maybe?
Yeah.
That's a really clanky noise.
I think so. I can't remember when, but I know
in the summer.
Yeah, you talked about doing it, at Mass one day, and I kind of started thinking about it and started talking to Julie about it and thought maybe it was time to re-up, because I've been baptized when I was younger, of course, did CCD and all that. So, yeah.
So you were raised Roman Catholic.
Right. Went to the cathedral my whole life.
Give us some of your story. What is your faith journey?
Well, it's kind of funny. Early on it was kind of forced, and I have 5 sisters, and one of them just had a birthday, and they were all here, and we were telling stories about when we used to have to go to church because my mom didn't and my dad did, and
your mom didn't go to church?
No.
And your dad did? Well, that's backwards of what you normally hear.
Isn't that funky?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so my mom, I think I don't know what she was, maybe Protestant or something, but her mom was a real interesting woman. So she used to always, I remember her saying, Catholics pew, they stink, one time, and she was just ornery. It's kind of funny. Always called my dad him, like he used to living with him. So just an interesting deal. But
this is your mom's mom was like that.
Wow. Her name was Irma, and she was 5'2", and just a little spitfire, and was, but that really had nothing to do with our thing. But my dad was raised, Catholic out of Laurel, and his whole family, and his sister, Armelda Sassano, was kind of big into church, and so when I was young, it was just going. I never really paid attention, other than it seemed like it was the same thing all the time. The homily I liked because that's the only thing you could kind of get into. The other stuff was over my head when I was younger, but
all the liturgy and the readings and the prayers.
And maybe I just didn't think about it enough, or was my focus was when I was in high school and stuff was elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But
so how did you end up at Narrate then, however many years later?
Well, then when I ran into Julie and got married, she had always kind of gone, and she lived in San Diego forever and Hawaii for a couple years out of high school, and kind of dibbled and dabbled in places. And when we got here and got married, she wanted to go, and I remember, I got real soured on it. And so when she first asked me, I think I told you this, if I wanted to go, I was like, hell no, no way. But I said I'd go, and because it was such a different format, that the thing that interested me was the way that you presented stuff is, what if, and what if this is what they meant, and what if, and then you also would give a little history of this is what the terminology meant back then. Mm-hmm. So it seemed, and maybe just being older, and I don't know, but it just made more sense. And then it seemed to help personalize it to where I could make it what I wanted it instead of somebody telling me what it had to be.
How would you describe, because I just skipped 20 years there, or maybe more. How would you describe your experience of God from your, you left the house and no longer had to go to Mass, to you married Julie? What happened in between there, between you and God?
Well, it's not like I never stopped believing, because I always kind of thought, really, if he's omniscient and omnipresent, then why would you have to go to show? I always thought it was if you were a good guy and you had good deeds and your intentions were right, then I always kind of felt like, I know I've said to you a bunch of times, that why you do what you do is more important than what you do. So I felt like if I just lived a good life and treated people kind of golden rule, sort of a deal, that was good enough. But then what I've found after being at Narrate for I don't know how many years now, that you miss out on the spiritual growth and running into people that are kind of on your side of the fence and are like you, Because even when she talked about gathering and scattering, and Julie was like, let's go to a couple dinners, let's do this stuff. I guess I'm I'm the opposite type of learner that I would like to have in my class, because I'm really passive and stay back for a while, and then but then I'm all or nothing, because once I decide, okay, I'm in, then I'm in.
So you said spiritual growth. What ways have you seen yourself grow?
Well, a lot. It's amazing at how much I think about what you say or what happens on Sundays. to how that helps me be maybe a better leader or teacher or role model when I'm teaching. You know, even though I've been around for, 36 years. So it's kind of because I find myself all the time, and I always say to Julie, I bet if you and I had movies of what we're both thinking during the service, it'd be so opposite. It'd be, funny, but I'm always trying to connect it with science and then thinking about how it can make me be a better guy to my kids.
Did your science ever get in the way of your faith? Like, were those ever at loggerheads for you?
Maybe when I wasn't quite as open or didn't have as much depth of knowledge. Because now I kind of think of it, it's like, so God is omnipresent, omniscient. What if he is the fabric of space-time? Because how can he be everywhere and all the way? And how do you talk about the universe and, being 13.8 billion light years wide and old or all this sort of stuff? And it just, and the Big Bang, but maybe really that's all, they can all agree with each other if you think about it, kind of like. And it seems to me like the way that any information is transmitted is maybe a weird way to think about, but vibrations is the way information is transmitted between everybody. And they think like with string theory, the smallest thing is the vibration of minuscule, and then how if you have a song that you like, it's a bunch of different vibrations that go together and are fit nicely, and then maybe we're all so different because we're just a whole bunch of different micro tunes, and maybe that's how what God is and how he talks to you and how he can be everywhere.
Wow. You've thought a lot more about that stuff than I have. That's fascinating. I just love it when people of science, when they can resolve that within like Orthodox Christian faith. Like, I just think that's awesome.
Well, the thing that amazed me because the other thing that's funky is I used to go to the Grand Street with my sister when it was the library.
Oh, wow.
Because she loved to read, and she would check out books upon books upon books, and I would check out the same book all the time,
What book?
Well, it was Harry the Fat Bear Spy, which was crazy because I must have read it 1,000 times, and so whenever I sit in there, I think about us, because when the kids was downstairs and the adult was upstairs, and so we would get books and then go up into the top.
So the balcony?
Yeah.
So there was no seats in there?
No, and like the height of the balcony was another floor of books way up high like that. And so you could get away and look down on people, and it was just a really cool place. And they had a couple of chairs, and so we'd get away, and so that was neat. So I think of her when I'm there, but the other thing when I started reading, because I never read fiction, when I really got into science, I'd read all, just straight up biographies or just straight stuff, and all of the guys like Einstein and so many of these high-powered thinkers were all religious guys, and so it got me thinking, there's got to be a reason.
Wow.
Or why, and the mystery of why things are the way they are. Why? It seems like there's too much for there not to be a higher power of something to do it, because otherwise, why? And I could never answer, if there isn't a God, then why?
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what kind of made me think there has to be, which is funny. But yeah, so I guess you're always trying to answer why stuff happens. But it seems to me there's got, maybe like the Big Bang, how it's cyclic, maybe he continually tests us to figure out if we can get our shit together, so to speak, and you can get it right,
So as you think about 50-something Paul relating to Jesus, what do you wish like 30-something Paul would have understood about the value of that relationship?
That it's more than just saying, praying to God to help me do something, to help me be a good basketball player or win state or to get this job. It's about me being good to help others through their struggle.
Wow. Kingdom character and the essence. Wow.
Well, maybe, from teaching, it's like, it seems like, I love chemistry and physics and stuff, and there's a few people who really like it as much as me, but probably, 98% of the kids who go through there aren't going to get out of it what I like or get as excited about it as I do. And So then more of it is just letting them know that it's okay to be them, and even if you're not good at physics or you suck at math or algebra is not your strong thing, you're still a good person, and give it your best and go for it, and don't let it get you down. Who cares?
36 years of teaching?
Yeah, I started in 89, but got to Mount Helena because I went 1 year in Oregon, then I came back to Helena in 1990. So
what's kept you at it that long?
I think the cool thing about teaching is every year you get a new start. To like this year I'm gonna, and even though it's kind of the same thing, it's like, well, this year I'm gonna improve upon stuff, and it's always a new batch of kids. So even though it's kind of the same, it's always different, and you learn new things, and you get energy. I remember I had a coach once say, who was a good teacher too, that said, you give out a lot of energy, and if you do it right, you'll get it back. So it's kind of cyclic. So if you can start out by fueling them and saying it's good and showing enthusiasm, then just by them maybe getting it or having an aha moment or finding that that's what they like, it's kind of a way to recharge your own battery.
Wow.
It feels like.
I like that. So let's fast forward to whenever that initial conversation was. You came to me and were talking about wanting to get baptized, and then quickly I learned you'd been baptized as an infant. And I really don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm curious what you remember about that conversation and where you found value.
Well, because I guess I was thinking, well, I need to get baptized again, and you're like, no, you've been there, done that. Maybe you just need to recommit, you know. And then I thought, well, that made a lot more sense, because it's not that I need to go through the ritual and say whatever happened back then. I guess what I was ready to do was just to say to Julie too, and to me, and I guess, you know, God, that I'm back. And hopefully for the right reasons.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, what I remember, and I mean, I'll never forget that interaction, because this notion for me, like, I think I've always been a part of environments that were very kind and conciliatory to Roman Catholicism, especially since I myself was raised that way, and I'm grateful for I feel like everybody I've never really been around that, like, Roman Catholic cynicism, which is so prevalent among Protestants. But at the same time, when someone would come to me and say they wanted to get baptized, and then I learned that they'd been baptized as an infant, I never thought twice about baptizing them. Like, I was like, yeah, of course, we'll just do that. And then, of course, this journey that I'm on within ancient faith and Anglicanism and I suppose sacramentalism has caused me to reflect on, like, not that it's this hard and fast thing. I'm not going to get legalistic about rebaptism, but this realization that, and I think you were one of the first people that I kind of had to play this out on, this realization of that impulse might actually be evidence that your baptism took.
Yeah,
that there was a grace, and so I'm really grateful just in that memory. Because I just remember for you, you were immediately like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which I'm grateful for that.
Well, and that was kind of nice that you said it that way, instead of just letting me do my thing. Because then I think I made me think more about it, about that it was more of like re-upping and saying, you know, now I'm ready. And I've been going to church for a while and figuring that pay your deal. Because I wasn't going to just walk in one day and then start taking the sacrament and say, right, you know, I'm up to speed.
Because you waited to take
and I'm
communion.
a starter. Yeah. Wow. And even after we did a bunch of stuff, and I went to some book readings, and that was also really cool to go to those readings and sit down with people of all different flavors, you know, and talk about stuff. And I felt like you got to put your dues, like you got to practice, and you got to put in the preseason, and you got to get ready before you play. And so that's why it was a couple years before I.
That's right. I forgot. Well, do you have any memory of, at the risk of creating this treadmill of nostalgia, what that was like then because you didn't take communion then until the weekend after Duncan died, and I think you might have been gone the next weekend or something, and so it was
we had a family thing. I forget what it was. You're right.
So it was a couple weeks. Because
even Julie said, "Well, no, you can, you know, take communion or whatever." And I said, "Well, no, I'm going to wait. I mean, if I'm going to do it, I guess I'm going to do it right." I mean, to me, kind of in you know, because that's why you do what you do is more important than what you do. So I was going to wait until it was.
Why you do what you do. Say more about that. Why you do what you do is more than what you do. I know that's your mantra to students.
So it seems, well, because I think you can really have good intentions and do things and have it totally just turned to crap. But really, if you were doing it for a good reason, you should not think of yourself as a failure, but think of, okay, I learned a lot, and maybe next time I can do it better. And there was a lot of good in just your attempt, and that you were trying to go down the right path, and maybe you didn't know, or nobody told you that was, maybe you had pitfalls or the wrong way, So as long as, because I just think like, why you do it means that you're doing it for an honorable reason.
Sure.
And that's way more important than doing something that's right if you yourself are going to either trick that person or get something out of them that helps you more than them. Because, because you can do the same thing for two different reasons, and one is valuable and the other is not.
Which is, that's the Jesus Sermon on the Mount, Kingdom Heart, like, the law says you shall not murder, but I'm telling you, if you're even angry, you've committed murder. And the law says do not commit adultery, but I'm telling you, if you've lusted, you've already committed adultery. Like that heart. I think you're nailing what Dallas Willard's helped me understand is about I was just listening to a lecture with him yesterday, and he was talking about that the goal of the Christian life is that kingdom character is the essence of our being and then just flows from us. Which I think is what you're saying, is it's the internal stuff that matters.
Yeah.
It's
because that's the struggle that you live with every day that only you know. I guess you and God.
You're right.
So only you really know how honorable what you're doing really is, and why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I get, that's not speaking well, but I never read the Bible. I never really have. And I don't know why. But I just find myself really thinking about a lot about what you say. And then when we did the book club things and finding parallels, there's so many parallels to things about you thinking about this, but then it really illustrates or brings you to the point of that way of thinking, that if you can understand one way and get through it, then that actually helps you understand maybe, like you're saying, what God was trying to say without actually having to read the Bible, be told something. What that even makes sense.
Well, you talked about that for you, reading the Bible is not one of your core practices. What would you say are the things, for lack of a better term, the practices that most strengthen your relationship with Christ? Like, what are the things that bring value for you?
Well, I've listened to some things and some podcasts you've sent me, especially with some philosophers, and I've read some philosophy. And one of the things when I was going to MSU and taking my math and physics and chem stuff is to get some of my humanities out of the way. I took probably I could almost had a minor in philosophy, but so it really started making me thinking about how you think is really important, and how you shape your arguments. Because I was always amazed that before they had really ways to investigate and do experiments and take hard data, then it was your thought experiment that controlled the whole thing about proving or disproving or developing what was a right or wrong sort of a progression. And so that always kind of interested me. And so then when I first started listening to you, the way you presented it was, what if they were trying to say this, and what if this was the message, and how does that affect you, or how does that then resonate with you in your life, and then what would that make you do tomorrow? So that, so it's kind of, I've thought about more about, because I get up and work out in the morning, and I ride a Peloton, and I sit in a sauna, and I listen to some podcasts, but it's made me think more, well, maybe I should take that time and throw on some, and see what that would do, because if that's a good thing, then that's a good thing.
Yeah. It sounds like something, but it sounds like you have a pretty thoughtful existence. Like you think about things.
Well, I hope so. Maybe. That's one of the things that's fun about bike, like, because Julie would always give me some crap about why I tend to do the same rides over and over. Is I think after you get into it, you can almost do it without thinking, and then it just lets your mind solve problems and really think about things. And I think thoughts come to you then that wouldn't come to you otherwise.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. So exercise is a big piece of your thing.
It helped me a lot growing up too, when I would get frustrated with things, and it was a way to just blow off steam. But then I found out it was a way to blow off steam constructively, and also solve problems in my mind about how to just think about things, and maybe how to do it better,
Totally. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
It's kind of, funky.
And in that practices conversation, you're pretty regular on Sundays.
Yeah.
So it's, and this isn't like a bash on mass thing, but you've moved from it's just fascinating to me, and maybe a honoring to your dad thing of church was a non-negotiable growing up, even though it felt kind of flat for you, but it seems like that's kind of gone full circle where it does seem like church is a part of, it's a piece of your puzzle as an adult.
Yeah, and it's funny because we used to always, because my dad was always rushing to get ready, and so sometimes we'd sit. One of the stories we told was we would always sit and think, well, is he going to get ready in time? Are we going to go? And he, we'd always get ready, and then we'd like, shit, we got to go. It was, it's kind of funny. We totally laugh at it now, but that's the way it was then. But now it's something we look forward to because it's a good way to kind of start the week and really reset your head a little bit. And I mean, I find it really interesting at how it makes me think of how I can talk to some students sometimes too, who I can tell, sometimes at first you're like, I just don't want to go to chemistry because I don't understand that shit, and I don't like math.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. And your worth in there is not your grade. Your worth in there is just how much you try, is what I try.
Wow. Yeah. So functionally what you ended up doing last year then was we had you get in the water, and you just dipped your hand in the water and crossed yourself, and then we prayed, right?
And you let me back, and I mean, I think I went all the way in.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, so you did dunk your, okay.
Yeah. So kind of ritualistic, went through the whole thing, And it's kind of neat to be, it's the people that narrate too, the more I run into them and do stuff are, they're good people, and they're not crazy, which, I may hope they don't think I'm crazy, because just stereotypes sometimes, you wonder, but no, I've ran into a lot of really good people from a lot of good walks of life who do a lot of different things, and I've always felt welcomed and comfortable, and so that's, I think, helped me always take maybe one more step into the water or get a little deeper into it, And actually, I've got to say that the fact that you would talk to me and meet me for a drink and just talk about whatever was really kind of surprising, because I was younger in high school and maybe junior high and college stuff, but I would have never gone to, I think, a Catholic priest really and wanted to talk to them about stuff, because I don't know, because even when I told you, I was married first to a person who goes to narrate now and is remarried, but we went through our marriage classes, and the priest was a physics guy earlier, so I thought that was really cool, and he was really nice, and that one all went well, but I don't know if I would have ever gone to talk to him the way I feel like I could just call you and talk to you about whatever.
That's kind. Well, it's been super fun. You and Julie have added so much value, and I'm so honored to have been a part of that story and see you guys in action, and it's fun.
Well, vice versa, it's nice to I hope that maybe, I give back as much as I get, so.
Yeah, it's really fun.
If you'd like to learn more about Narrate Church, find us online at narratechurch.org.
You can also look us up on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for listening.